This is The Round Table, a talk show brought to you by the Glastonbury Goddess Conference. In this circle, the priestesses of the ceremonial circle, the weavers of our annual gathering, talk about pivotal topics about our community, spirituality, and goddess. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Round Table, episode 15. Who'd have thought it? We are here, second year, fourth episode of the second run, and we are here today with a wonderful panel with Goddess Conference ceremonialists Katinka Sutens.
Hi.
Marian Brigantia.
Hello.
𝗬𝗓𝗘𝗕𝗓𝗓.
Hi.
Will I ever get your surname correct? Is it correct? 𝗓𝗓𝗘𝗓𝗓. Is it correct? Okay.
Yes.
Amanda Baker. Thank you. Hi, Amanda. Okay.
Hi.
So, today is going to be a very exciting episode for us. It's called the Tantra Files. And like Mulder and Scully, we're going to go in the depth of this. We're going to look for... I have no clue about the Tantra at all. So here we are today. So this topic is born, most of all, out of my curiosity and Marion's curiosity about what this is all about. So we took the chance of the sacred union here to deepen our knowledge of Tantra. So we are here to know, and we're here with you, all of you following us through Facebook and YouTube, to know more about Tantra. As we all know, Tantra, at least I think we know, it's one of the most misunderstood practices and disciplines. It's a powerful gateway to understand both the physical and the spiritual realm of sacred union, which is this year's theme at the Goddess Conference. Why is then society so scared of spiritual realms such as Tantra, and why does the world still feel the urge to shame everything that brings love, intimacy, and relationships to sacred and deep levels? And this is going to be not just the topic for today, but also the topic that you'll meet when you join us in person for the Goddess Conference from the 29th of July to the 3rd of August, with this wonderful panel of ceremonialists coming alive when we all meet together in beautiful ceremonies, in transformational experiences. And sacred union is going to be about many, many things: connection to nature, to yourself, how you enter the sacred in sacred union, but also it's going to be all about love and how we can enter intimacy with ourselves and with other people as well. So today, the Tantra Files starts from there and starts from Marian. Marian, what do you know about Tantra? What is your main question? What is this all about?
Well, this is interesting because, like you, I really don't know much. When you go to the spiritual corners in a library or in a bookshop, it's always the Tantra, and I'm always like, oh yes, let's not go there. So I'm like, I don't know why there is a certain hesitance, resistance, and maybe it's just what I don't know, I don't get. I know it's a spiritual practice. I know that, but I don't know much about it. So I'm actually, like you, very, very curious, and I think other people are curious as well. So yeah, let's bring it on.
I think that's lovely, because it would be the book section you would find me. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I think one of the things that is very beautiful in this not knowing is that actually, you're looking at Tantra as a spiritual path. It's not just a practice, it's a path with many practices and many different forms of that path. That actually what kind of is not exactly the goal, but what is the opening into is the not knowing, is the letting go of ideas or identities or expectations or goals, really. So I think that's it. We don't need to have any more discussion. We've got there just like that. Your opening statements. Maybe we can talk a little bit about our understanding of Tantra, because like many things, like the word goddess or the concept, what goddess is and means to different people is very individual. There are certainly traditional tantric paths that are really part of the actual lived practices and experiences of many cultures, actually, particularly from the East. Here in the West, Tantra basically means Neo-Tantra and is about sacred sexuality, which is a way of exploring not just sexuality as just a physical act, or getting more skilled in that physical act, which, let's face it, we don't exactly get educated about how to be skilled lovers. You know, you get lucky maybe in your life, but really this is not part of our general education. But really it is actually about so much more than even just sacred sexuality. It is certainly a path that explores the sexual as sacred, life force energy as sexual energy, as erotic energy as sacred, and what that means in relationship to your own aliveness, to your source energy, to inner union. In my understanding, very much the core of many tantric practices are about sacred union in one form or the other, which again means different things to different people. In the East, the tantras are really the teachings, and the teachings that you practice. And they can involve sexual practices, but on the whole, they are energetic practices. They are devotional practices. They're deity practices. And they're about really changing the shadow behaviors of our, what some people call our egoic archetypes, or the patterns of our behavior that are stuck in negative forms that are harmful to ourselves and to others. Let's say, for example, are greed-based, for example. Yeah, how do you train yourself out of that? So Tantra is broad, and I cannot speak for the tantric paths in, say, Buddhism or in Hinduism, though I have trained a little in Hindu Tantra, you know. And I've trained in Neo-Tantra, which is the more sort of sacred sexuality Tantra that is being brought to the West. So but it is a very complicated question. And maybe it's good to have some other voices coming in, what it means for you, because really we are talking as Westerners about paths that I truly believe were part of our own indigenous spirituality. I cannot see a goddess-based spirituality that does not incorporate sacred sexuality within it. And also probably why patriarchy has made it such a sinful thing. Yeah. But anyway, so it's a huge topic, really, in what angle we want to approach it from. Maybe Sadhu or Amanda, you want to step in and say something?
I'd like to share something, because I don't know, like Marion, really what Tantra is. That wasn't a way I accessed sacred sexuality. And I still don't know really what Tantra is. But for me, looking back on my journey, I was called to enter into becoming a priestess of Rhiannon, as taught by Katinka, because I know now I was trying to heal myself. I didn't know what that was, what I was trying to heal, until I started on the journey, and the journey unfurled in its own way. And so looking back now, from where I am now, my experience of sacred sexuality was within me, the opening up of my own sacred sexual energy, and realizing in that healthy place, in that whole healed place of my inner sacred Shakti in the base of me, and the rising to meet my Shiva, my sacred masculine. For me, that is my personal Tantra, inverted commas. But I had to discover from the broken place in me, the unhealed place in me, that passion and the love, because it is the love that drives everything. And so for me, Tantra is love. sacred love.
I would love to pick on that because it's a beautiful thing, and as well, I think it weaves very well with what this is about. I mean, when we started this conversation about tantra in this episode, it's if you go back to the word tantra, I think it makes perfect sense with what Amanda just said, because it's a Western approach to the thing in a way, because it's the neo-tantra in a way. It's the pursuit of a certain energy that can lead you to. But what's curious about is that the origin of the word tantra is very similar to what Amanda says, and its etymology. Sorry, the etymology of tantra is not something, but it's a way. In fact, it really relates to the Goddess Conference a lot, because tantra means to weave. It's loom basically, so it's to weave. It's really interesting in a way, because tantra is a term that is used in language to suggest that some books might be about tantra. So it's not about tantra. It's like something tantra, something. It's like sutra. It's something sutra, something tantra, meaning that tantra is a word that I use to indicate a weaving of things. So how traditions and culture and principles are woven together to create that spiritual connection that expands. The other translation they gave is expansion. Is
actually it is a weaving together, but of something that never was not together. It's like that, and it's very difficult to put this into language or imagery, because you're always you're giving something form that is actually not that. That's something else. So in Buddhism, what is woven together, which is never separate, it's never not already within each other. That would be wisdom and compassion, for example. That's the core of tantric practices there, that and then given form of masculine and feminine. Yeah. And in Hinduism, you could say it's Shakti and Shiva, but the two are never not together. In Taoism, you have these different forms that we give. So it's a weaving, but it is really us weaving into something that is already there. I think, Sadhu, you have a lot of knowledge about this.
I think something exciting and interesting that we're pointing to is for me that kind of the heart of Tantra is inclusiveness. And this is also how it's come to mean so many different things to so many different people. One of the kind of tantric traditions I've studied is Kashmiri Tantra, and you have this explosion in the 9th century of Kashmiri in the Kashmir Valley in North India. And one of the really exciting things is that tantric practitioners suddenly become householders. They suddenly become women. They include all of the spiritual practices that have gone before, and they introduce all of these new spiritual practices. So evolution is such a key part of it, and this inclusiveness of like, yes, it's this, but it's also this. And this idea, one of my teachers used to say a lot, it's not that everything is Tantra, but everything can be Tantra. It is really how we approach spirituality, how we live our spirituality, and how we seek to expand our consciousness through all experiences. And then this is why sexuality was also a big part of it, because it had been so repressed beforehand. So suddenly it is. There's the availability to explore the practices of sexuality and the potency of sexuality, and just how transformative that can be. Yeah, so I often think about this, why are there so many different expressions of Tantra? Why, you could get 10 people in the room and they could say something completely different that you could not necessarily match together, and they'd all be talking about Tantra. And it is because of this radical inclusiveness. And another way to play with the word Tantra is from the root tra, is tool, and then tan, to expand. It's this ever expanding kind of spiritual field that has this immense capacity to include all of our human experience, and so much more.
And I love the wisdom that you're speaking into that because you hear this often, everything is Tantra, and it's not. That's just not true. But everything has the capacity or the possibility to be Tantra. Yes. I love that. And I think it's very much about our personal experiences as well. Sorry, Marion.
No, I was wondering, because I'm listening and learning. So is it to do also with your interaction with all that life that is around you through your senses, through your body, or how is it mind? Is it body? Is it how does it?
Well, they're not separate. They're not separate. Our mind is not separate from our body. This is what, and this is the separation based patriarchic religions. Yeah, I think this is Tantra is a great medicine for that. And so for me, there's a little bit of what 𝗬𝗓𝗓 was speaking into, and Amanda was referring to as well. It is personal, and there are practices, and it can mean all sorts of different things. There are different ways. For me, it is a form of embodiment, and it is through sacred sexuality, that experience of the expansion into something bigger than my normal self, or more, and then with another person, if that is with a lover, and then more than that. So it's this, again, it's so hard to talk about, because you're talking about things that are not, this is also why Tantra is often described very poetically, or mysteriously, or through the personification of deities, because it is very hard to actually capture the experience in words. So we tend to use the symbolism around it. So yes, the senses, Marion, like you were saying, yes, the body, yes, the mind, yes, the heart, yes, your connection, because you are not separate. So for me, the personal experience of not being separate from Goddess has been a fundamental part of my tantric journey and my own experiences and study of that. And I can't imagine being on a spiritual path that would not include that gateway into that experience. I mean, this is one of the natural gateways for humans to experience that expansion into the not being separate from something that is much bigger than you, whatever you want to call that, love or nature or Goddess or God. And so, of course, if you want to limit people's access and experience of that, you're going to distort it, and you're going to say only in celibacy, or only in monasteries, or only in whatever can these are the pure pathways. And what I love about the tradition from the East, the traditions from the East, is what, like 𝗬𝗓 was saying, there has been this evolution there, because it's an unbroken tradition. Actually going back to what it must have been before, that all of it, how could it possibly not be? All of it is potentially that gateway.
I still find it interesting. I don't. It's not a clarity about. You're talking about practices. You're talking about the gateway, the opening. But I just can't feel how it's done. Is it only done in relationship to something, or is it also tantric can be also completely personal, or is it only in relationship to Goddess, or relationship to another person, or relationship to nature? I don't know.
I might have some kind of help to connect the conversation, because I think Katinka and 𝗬𝗓 really are deep into that, Amanda as well. But I found something that helped me out in that, which is this, and Katinka, 𝗬𝗓, Amanda, please jump in. This is a kind of a definition that is not definition of Tantra, but it's the principle that drives all the tantric realms, which you tell me if it makes sense for you. So what is Tantra? It's about practices, disciplines, paths to elevate consciousness, explore the nature of reality, and achieving spiritual liberation. Which the last part, spiritual liberation, particularly, I think it's particularly poignant if we think that the Western part, as we were saying, of Tantra that arrives to us, it's all about the parts of our society that we secluded and we put in a way in the dark, and we kept caged in a way. So it would make sense that for us, what this Tantra is much more about, let's say, the exploration of sexuality as well, because we repress that so much. Does this definition that can be found online for absolute beginners like me, does that make any sense in the realm of trying to grasp what what is a tantric path to things? Does this make sense to you?
It's language is so interesting, and I'm sure the others have something to say as well. For example, I mean, I have no issue with that phrase, but the word like elevating consciousness. I mean, on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, no. It's awakening. It's being authentic in consciousness. It's being different words are possible. It's not so much the rising, and the imagery of, yes, the lotus is associated with particular tantric paths. But no mud, no lotus. So there is such a desire in us to separate things out. And so for me, Tantra is deeply embroidered part of, not separable from, sacred union for that reason. So go back to Marion's little the questions. Yes to all of that. It doesn't have to be with something else or someone else, like Amanda was referring to this, her own inner journey, really, of wholeness, of loving home different parts.
I think for me it's very much not being an expert on Tantra, but a desire to be intimate with myself and without myself. And so it's an exploration for me through seeking, wanting to move the movement of energy within and without me, to explore. And if that means to elevate, then I don't, possibly to elevate my consciousness, to elevate my understanding, my seeking, my desire to know more, my desire to open more, my desire to move energy, to explore energy, to deepen my connection, to deepen my relationship with the unrelatable and the relatable. To open, to open more, to seek more within and without. So yes, it's sexuality, it's sacred sexuality and sensuality, but it's also because I desire to love myself more, to be the love, to be love, to... Am I making any sense? I'm going off into a...
Making lots of sense.
I liked it. You said the desire to have an intimate relationship.
Yeah, to seek.
Yeah.
It's the nature of reality. So yeah, it is that. What would you say, Sadhu? You are really also a practitioner of this.
Yes, and an aspect of Tantra also is this exploration of the layers of our being, and and the meeting of different layers of our being, which include us, the senses, the elements, and the layers of the world we live in, and this idea that every layer of us and every layer of the world is made of nothing but divinity, which was also in Kashmiri Tantra was a big revolution, because before that you had this you had the kind of Advaita Vedanta tradition, which was very much like not this, this isn't God, this isn't holy, this isn't the divine, this is it, only this is it. Whereas Tantra was very much in the Kashmiri Valley in the 9th century. Well, that's when it started to be recorded. Anyway, it's probably happened thousands of years before that. But yeah, this idea of and this. It's another layer of our being, also comprised of nothing but divinity. So everything can be a portal for us to connect with our divinity. And I think for me this brings it together with kind of European paganism. In our connection, with the elements and journeying through the senses, and how we meet the landscape, and we seek our connection with the divine there. And also another interesting piece of kind of Tantra in the 9th century in the Kashmiri Valley is it's possible that it came from a tradition called the Shramana, which is very like shaman. And the Shramana are these kind of earth-based, it's an earth-based spiritual tradition. So it kind of, I don't know, I feel that in Tantra there is a lot of there is so much earth-based spiritual, what we would call kind of modern earth-based spirituality, and relate to paganism, and these things are all interwoven. And so, like Katinka said before, how can our European goddess traditions not have had this sacred sexuality element, and this kind of love making with life and one another and in relationship and ourselves as a core part of the tradition?
And I feel that too. I feel that this it's almost like a returning to that the tantric traditions of the East are returning to something older, before a deeply lived knowing experience, which is also the root of our European pagan and goddess traditions now. And I think there is something about that, what you were describing there around this, the divinity of it all. There's not, and then how do you walk that? Because then there is this real element of responsibility in true tantric practitioners, which is also where the distortion gets its outing, because of course we are all coming from places of wounding, from power distortions, from well, the list is very long, yeah. And the moment you work with certainly with sacred sexuality, but even any of the deity practices, yeah, there is this possibility for the distortion, but also the immense stepping into the joy of the responsibility of living your life from that reality. So it's not at the expense of others or at the expense of nature, or, well, I can have it because it's delicious for me and therefore I'm the goddess, or it's all part of the divine and fuck you, really. That's like not so important. It cannot ever be in that dualistic othering distortion, because the very core of the lived experience is one of unity, of sacred union. So how could you possibly be in a taker kind of mentality, though of course from places of wounding we all can be, but it's that. I think that's the gold for me, that it is the lived reality of what we all in goddess tradition and in the goddess conference really actually long for, a world that is based on a different framework of reality to the one that we are living in our societies.
Beautiful.
Could we say then that the approach that you have, you all have at conference, is a bit tantric in a way?
Yes.
It is. I think it is.
Well,
No,
I have no issue with that.
Yes, I think because the way you explained it, it's a fresh concept to me. So now I'm getting a bit of what it could be like, but it feels more like a way of thinking and processing reality, and an approach to that. And I feel it's the same way you kind of shifted like the non-separation, the participation and the excitement, the joy of it. I think there is something of that is woven now deeply into the conference. Not because I need to advertise that. It's just that it's hearing you talk about that. I think I heard similar enunciation also for principle of the conference and the way you live your spiritual lives. I think Marion lives in a tantric way many things she does, and
exactly, which is why it's so funny,
Yeah,
and also it's the inclusivity of the conference, which is one of our fundamental pieces of our vision, and what we're all holding, which is also with healthy boundaries. It's behaviorally based, which you have to have those, which is what 𝗬𝗓 was talking into about Tantra. It is the possibility of everything, but that with that comes a peace. It's not like it's with something that has a particular gate. I'm calling it a gateway. It's a health thing.
It feels like, it's like it is actually more, as I understand what you are saying, it's more like a way of being and a way of acting in a spiritual sense that we in the West don't call tantric, because it's more like it comes from the East. But in principle, it is a tantric, but it is because we are not coming from that tradition. That's not how we call it, but we could have called it that. Is that true?
Well,
That's what you're saying, Andrea, isn't it?
I mean,
I'm just checking if I got it right, you know.
I know though that I'm really curious right now because I expected a totally different conversation, and we went places that I had no idea. I mean, I thought about, you know.
So do you want to answer, Marion?
Yeah, please go.
I don't know if this is an answer, but what's coming up for me now is this piece about kind of spinning off what you were saying also, Katinka, about you know, being in right relationship with one another, and then our use of power, and in terms of kind of our global situation, there is a piece here for me that I feel and see where, you know, that as people reclaiming the ancient goddess traditions of Europe, that we need the traditions of the rest of the world in order to do that, in order to point us in the direction of what was actually present here, and then also to rebalance this great this horrific history of misuse of power, where Europeans have reaped devastation across all of these cultures, and actually the reality now is spiritually that we actually need so much from them in order to find our own truths again in the land we live in. I don't know if I've spun into something else there, but that was just.
I know.
I
was thinking the same thing, 𝗧𝗦. I was thinking about the imbalance as everyone was talking, and the lack of the sacred in our societies, in our schools, in our upbringing, and making reference to what's being discussed now is the drama adolescence, and that imbalance, that distortion that's being pursued, the misogyny, the imbalance of the feminine and the masculine,
and the wounding there,
distortion of sacred presence within us and without us, and the devastation that creates intimately in our lives and in our world, in our societies. How much do we need Tantra in our everyday life,
Absolutely.
And this really points to this piece of we really need each other, also in our spiritual traditions. And I don't believe there's any spiritual tradition that is complete, and we need this kind of cross-referencing to really find our way back to honoring every aspect of life, which is the invitation of Tantra. And there's different places where different spiritual traditions who honor different aspects of life better than others, and so this really refinding relationship.
Unlimited, if we just unlimit ourselves and open ourselves, our consciousness to all of this, we take the word Tantra away and just explore all that's on offer to us, to share with each other.
While grounded in our body, not out of it, not. So I think the bliss is the presence, we're in the bliss of that. But the bliss can also be the drug, can also be the addiction to the endlessly seeking, and it is in the end in the finding or becoming or beingness of it. And I think there's a beautiful harmony, like you're saying, between different traditions where similarities can be found and appreciated. Oh, for you it's in this form, for me it's in that form. And there's not this striving of only my form is the right form, which is the disease of this competition, one form of deity only for everyone. So there is a lot that Tantra really holds in its widest form, where really we're talking about these are inner outer deity practices, And they are not practices so that we sort of elevate ourselves out of our humanity, but so that we remember that we are not separate from, that it is all, you've said it beautifully, 𝗬𝗓, already. And I think we have, all of us have experiences of it, even though, like Marion was saying, we might not call it Tantra.
And we're coming to the place where we're within the Tantra Files, where we say, like 𝗙𝗓 and 𝗙𝗓, the truth is out there, and we need to be seeking that and finding it. Today we haven't touched a couple things that we need to touch, but we'll do the Tantra Files part 2, because we need to see how all this beauty that we wove and talked about relates to the utter difficulty we have in society to tackle these topics without resistance, blocks, and resistance in a way. So it was a beautiful introduction. So Tantra File part 1 needs to end here, but I think we'll do that again, because it's really interesting. I need to deepen this. It went way deeper than any one of us expected, I think. I mean, at least me and Marion, but maybe. But thank you so much. It was absolutely incredible. And I'm really curious. So you might meet me in the library in the same look. Now, Katinka. You might have won me over for this.
And maybe, Andrea, we can also invite more questions from people, because I know people have, and that resistance that you're talking about, that is part of the healing journey that we've also mentioned here, that Amanda particularly brought in that piece. So yeah, if you have questions, please send them so that we can make part 2.
Exactly. We need your questions. And also, what we do need is to know if you'll be joining us at the Goddess Conference, a very tantric and a very united and open and inclusive event that runs from the 29th of July to the 3rd of August at Glastonbury, Avalon, the heart chakra of the world, as it's called. So please join us and find tickets to meet this panel of wonderful ceremonialists. They are great people. They are stunning ceremonialists, but they're great people as well. So please do come and join us. It's a beautiful community. It's an inclusive space. It's a safe space. So please join us and let's unravel this sacred union topic together. Let's have a beautiful experience this summer together. Please book your tickets at goddessconference.com. So thank you so much, Katinka Sultans, 𝗙𝗓𝗪𝗘, Marion Brigante, Amanda Baker, for your beautiful contributions. Love you so much, and see you next time, always here at the round table. Bye.